I keep in contact with my college professor, and so he drops off all these cards, and I was like, oh, cool, like a bunch of older cards, really cool and interesting things to look at. It's so messed up.
Yeah, I saw the corner. I was like,
Yeah, dude, all four corners are banned.
Bird, I swear to God, I found this under my bed today.
Shut up.
I swear to God. Bird, I was sweeping under my bed and I found a freaking 9.5. Bird, a gem 9.5, but it had the sleeve, so it's not damaged. But like, dude, I know what happened. I swear to God. I was sleeping at night and I was like this in the bed and it just fell.
Hello and welcome everyone back to yet another episode of Red Cape Sports. My name is Bird Bouchard, and joining me is the producer, the man, usually behind the scenes, making it all work. But nevertheless, there is Mitch Bouchard. Long story short, a pretty big name within the hobby, Gary Vaynerchuk. He likes to do this segment called Overrated, Underrated. And without completely copying it, it's probably going to be very similar. But I thought today, Mitch has a list and I have a list. We don't know whose cards are which, but these are just cards that I randomly picked, names that I thought would be interesting to talk about. And we're going to go over PSA 10 cards, and we're going to debate whether that card is overrated, underrated, meaning is it overpriced or underpriced. So it's not necessarily overrated, underrated. It's mainly to say, is it overpriced, overhyped, or undervalued? So whatever that might be.
All right, Bird, take it away. Start off with the first one you got.
All right, so I'm going to start it off right away because as we're recording this is Super Bowl Sunday. But I didn't go with anyone in the Super Bowl. I actually wanted to throw you a curveball right off the bat. Aaron Rodgers, top chrome, PSA 10, and the pop report is only 230. So there's only 230 of these cards. And I thought that was an interesting card because, in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers, although he's only got that one solo Super Bowl ring, he does have it. And arguably speaking, he's a guaranteed Hall of Famer.
I think definitely for the long term, I would say he is underrated. And in the short term, I think he's properly rated because if he doesn't do much in the next few years, I don't see it going up much right now. However, the Hall of Fame, and a lot of people like him. I know a lot of individuals that love him and that are football fans. I would say he's properly rated now, but also underrated in the long term.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely having won that MVP at his age is only going to boost him up. I still feel like he's got enough talent left in him to potentially win, maybe not another MVP, but obviously, he's capable of doing it, having just done it. But if he does end up winning another Super Bowl, legendary status just goes higher and higher from there.
Yep, absolutely. So what do you think, Bert? Do you think he's overrated or underrated?
I think he's underrated. When it's all said and done, I believe that you can make a case. He's definitely top 10 quarterbacks all time. But when it's all said and done, I think he can probably squeeze his way into top 5.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to start off with one, and I do have the card here. So Jaromir Jagr, PSA 10. Overrated or underrated, Bird?
Jaromir Jagr, at the end of the day, he's second all time in points. I'm not quite sure what the pricing on those go for.
But
okay, so about $1,000. I'm actually it's weird because that's like a junk wax era card, but they're really hard to grade. Like it's really hard to get a high grade of that. So I'm going to say underrated, not by much, but I am going to say underrated. I feel like hockey's definitely starting to gain the momentum that it deserves. And Jaromir Jagr is an absolute legend. Having played so long, whether you're my age or even like 50, 60 years old, you've probably grown up and you probably saw Jaromir Jagr.
Yeah, I believe he has at least or near 2,000 graded PSA 10s. So it's quite a few.
Okay.
compared to like the gray one. I think he's underrated, but also not extremely underrated. But I would definitely put him underrated.
Yeah. Not
Um,
by much, but I mean, at the end of the day, like that pop report, though, right? Like if it is near 2,000, if you compare that to other sports where we are seeing pop reports being
yeah.
15,000, if he can garner enough interest, then it's certainly an undervalued card, in my opinion.
Well, and that's
Um,
what we're seeing with vintage cards, right? The
right.
reason a lot of these vintage cards are going up is because people, for example, take a great athlete right now like Auston Matthews. If he's $1,000, Gretzky should be like, you know, way
Yeah.
more than that, right? Because he's Wayne Gretzky. So that's what we're seeing
Yeah.
right now.
Alrighty. So actually, you just mentioned his name being Auston Matthews.
Did I really?
That's another yes. So I also have Auston Matthews on my list here, being a PSA 10 young gun. His pop report is 1,883 PSA 10s.
Hmm.
So 1,800, and honestly, I can't see how anyone can say this card is overvalued or over anything, because Auston Matthews, arguably speaking, other than maybe Ovechkin, is probably the best purebred goal scorer. And at the end of the day, listen,
2 goals last night.
right, Connor McDavid is incredible and will shatter records for points and things like that. Maybe not Gretzky's records, but what I'm getting at here is when it comes to just putting the puck in the back of the net, I actually got to give the edge to my man Auston Matthews. And you know, his card prices do go up in playoffs, but like when they win a playoff series, it's going to go higher. When they actually compete for a cup and make it deep, it's going to go much higher. And lo and behold, it may never happen, full transparency, but if he does win a Stanley Cup, that PSA 10 card is going to explode. There's no bigger hockey market in the world than the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you guys are coming from other sports, that's the Lakers, that's the Yankees. That's the team.
I like it. I would say Austin, and I own a Matthews. I sold one a little prematurely, but got the profits. I would say that he's properly rated, and only because the way I look at it is there's a difference between holding him now and then holding him 10 years from now, because we don't know. I still think there's a lot of ifs because he's so young, but in terms of a talent, like if you told me you bought an Auston Matthews card, I think he is underrated or probably properly rated right now, and then definitely severely underrated over the long term if he does what he's doing now. It's just tough because he's so young. Right now, properly rated. In the future, underrated unless it gets hurt.
Yeah, I mean, anything that I say is obviously barring injury. I mean, an injury can just throw some wrenches into your plan. But with that being said, it is your turn.
Okay, so next we're gonna go, and I have the card again. I might as well. We're gonna go not PSA 9, but a PSA 10. Mike Tyson question of sport. So if you don't know, there's one other card that's a little more valuable. This card, PSA 9, about $1,400 Canadian. Do you think Mike Tyson in general, a rookie card of his, is underrated or overrated? PSA 10.
I think the entire industry of boxing, wrestling, fighting is currently undervalued right now. I think so many people kind of have the attention of the four major sports being baseball, basketball, hockey, and football that, and I mean, we're seeing it. Like, obviously he didn't wrestle, but like we are seeing it already with wrestling cards. Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, like those rookie card wrestling cards are starting to go up like mind-boggling numbers. And I think that boxing and UFC cards are also starting to go up a little bit. And Mike Tyson, I mean, whether you imitate him in the little lift that he have, or whether you just know of him trying to bite people's ears off, like he's a legendary dude. And as far as I'm concerned, those card prices, although they've already gone up a lot, I would argue that this is still undervalued. I still feel like Mike Tyson is, arguably speaking, I mean, you got to put him top 5 all time for boxing. You really do.
Yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of people don't, but in terms of his overall story and what he's done, who has lived a similar life to Mike? Literally, and or like everything about it. Like supposedly they're going to be working on that movie. That would be cool. Jamie Foxx plays him with a bit of visual effects. Dude, just the mentor of Customato. Mike Tyson was an orphan. Literally, man, was like part of, was stealing every day, and then became the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time. The youngest was on drugs. Dude, his story is insane. What he did, it was an execution when he went in there. When he went in there, it wasn't a fight, dude. People were like, wow, like how many seconds is this fight going to be? I think he's severely undervalued. I wish I had more. I might want to get more. I don't know. But I think Mike Tyson, I think people are going to look back on him. And we did an episode on this. I did an episode on this months ago. And these cards have gone way up. Mike Tyson, for many reasons, in my opinion, is severely undervalued. He's got his podcast. People are going to look back on somebody like that, which they already are, and going to go, wow, we don't have this anymore. Yeah. He's a dying breed of people, man. I'm bullish on him.
Yeah, very interesting on Mike Tyson there, most definitely. But moving on to the next card, I'm going to go with another guy who you absolutely love. If you guys have been rocking with Red Cape, you know that Mitch won't shut up about this guy. Zion Williamson, PSA 10 Prism.
Underrated. He's the most underrated athlete. No, I'm just kidding. Let's go.
I mean, I can't help but say that this is extremely overrated. The prices that he's fetching, like, don't get me wrong, I do think Zion's a really good athlete, and I do think he's a really good NBA player. Some of the prices that he's fetching, though, is just ridiculous. And the pop report for PSA 10, there's 15,341 as of the making of this video. 15,000, and I'm well aware, 400 million Americans, do the math, 15,000 is supply and demand. But I mean, those are 15,000 cards that are in consistent motion. So realistically, it's more than 15,000, because the moment one gets sold, it's listed again. And I can't help, dude, but honestly, I think that card's extremely overvalued right now.
Dude, I think you're going to be shocked with what I'm going to say, but I actually thought about it the other day. I'm in the same net, dude. I think Zion PSA 10 is kind of overrated. I can't believe I just did that, and I love Zion.
I can't believe that either, dude. You might shock some of the subscribers that we have
because of the price, and it's not just Zion. Because of the price, a lot of modern guys, when we were getting them, it was different. Like if Zion was $300, $400, $500, I get it. Mm-hmm. But for somebody who's that young and hasn't even played 70 games, 100 games, dude, he shouldn't be $1,000, let alone that many. I one more thing to say though, in the long term, if he continues to do what he's doing, and
for sure,
potentially even if he doesn't even get better, he's underrated long term. But as of right now, his card prices are a little overrated. Yeah. Although I still believe in Zion, I haven't moved any of his good cards. I'm a huge fan. He's my favorite athlete of all time. I would love to meet Zion. He's Superman, I love that guy. So,
I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like these newer Prism cards, like every year, they're easier to grade. Just look at the pop reports, and we're starting to see them going higher and higher. It's only a matter of time till Zion catches up to Luka's. There's, as of the making of this video, they're only separated by about 400. Wow. And like I said, I'm pretty sure more will come there. But another thing that I did want to mention, it's not to say that there isn't space to invest in these newer Prism cards. I think you just got to get to these guys before they just do incredible things. Like there was one point, dude, me and you, we were buying Luka cards for like $20, right?
Yeah, I know. I didn't get enough.
And that's just it, right? So it's not to say, oh, like you missed the ball, but I still think Luka will go up. I still think Zion will go up, but just I personally won't be investing at those prices. No way.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with me. I would love maybe one day I'll even get a Zion Prism Silver. But for the price, when they first came out, somebody pulled one in the card shop, remember? And they were like, I want $900. I'm like, I'm not paying $900 for a card of a guy who hasn't even like played yet. So, and I love Zion. I've spent good money on some of his cards. Like I have some good ones. But even then, Bird, I've never paid more than $200-300 for a Zion. And that's because I got a good deal on it. I think for how many prisms there are, especially it's a base, it's not a silver, $1,000 is kind of crazy for a card.
It's ridiculous.
They're implementing a lot of risk. Where it is worth it is the timing of it and the price. For example, when he was $70 raw, that's a time to buy. Now it's a completely different field of view. So yeah, even in my opinion, Zion a little overrated in prices.
Oh, interesting.
In that, I know.
Oh wow. All right, take us away with the next one.
Okay, so next one, I think I already said it kind of prematurely, but might as well because I just sold one. Last year I bought 5 of these cards, and they are PSA 9 Topps Chromes. But today we're going to talk about PSA 10 Topps Chrome, Vince Carter, valued over $1,000, I would say. Okay. So, what do you think? Overrated, underrated?
Ultimately, I feel like I would need to know the pop report. I know when when Vince just came into the league, it was, I want to say 95. I think the year I was born. I want to say he came into 95. You could probably 93. Check on that.
90.
Okay, so 93, even sooner. That junk wax era, still technically speaking, is still around. $1,000 seems really high. He's not
Chrome. It's his Chrome.
Of course, he's not currently playing. At the end of the day, he's probably pound for pound the greatest dunker of all time. But I don't necessarily think he's a legend. Vince Carter is absolutely a legend. But I'm actually going to say that's overvalued at the moment. That's just how I feel. I feel like without currently playing and not being like, when you talk NBA legends, Vince Carter doesn't really get thrown around there that much unless you're talking about dunks. He was great with the Raptors. 2000, making those playoff runs, playing with T-Mac when T-Mac just started, Stoudemire, and, he was great. And I'm a huge Vince Carter fan. Somewhere back here, I actually have his autograph. But, again, without knowing the pop report, like if I'm just going off the pricing of it and what he's done in his career, I think that's slightly overvalued. That's just me.
In my opinion, I think he's a little overrated in terms of price. As Vince Carter for himself, if you are a fan, like I kind of am, I think it's a cool card to want to get. But at the price, I think they're pretty high. That's why I ended up moving them, because in my eyes, long-term, I don't see him as a long-term hold like a Yager or a Gretzky. Just because in terms of points, I mean, Stephen A. Smith even talked about it. Vince Carter, unfortunately, didn't pan out in the sense that he could have done more. But he is the dunk guy. He's the dunk king. But when people look back on the history of basketball, you have to remember, just because a player's good, do they fit in the top 5? And
and
Carter's not a top 5 points guy.
No,
just not.
And that's just it.
Top 5 guy. A dunk guy, a dunk guy. He's a legend. If you're a Raptors guy, Vince Carter's huge. But
right. And I mean, like,
did he get a championship?
No, he never got a championship anywhere he went.
That's not good for his.
And he played 20 plus years, man, and he never won a championship. And that's another important thing for those who did make it this far in the video, to say, oh, well, when this guy does win a championship, like, honestly, I mean this in the nicest possible way, you kind of want to get rid of that mentality, because another guy, Mitch, that I really want to talk about, Mike Trout. Mike Trout may never well win a World Series. And people always say, oh, well, when Mike Trout wins a World Series. Well, guess what? The reality is the Angels aren't close to winning a World Series anytime soon. He's 29 years old. He might still have another decade left, 10 plus years of baseball.
Yeah, probably.
But in baseball, he still may never well win a championship. Do I think he will? I think he's got a good chance, but it's not guaranteed. And as I look at it, Mike Trout Tops Update Series, PSA 10, the Pop Report, it's actually pretty low. It's 5,188. 5,188.
His Topps card, right? His Topps card.
That's his Topps card. No chrome, just flagship paper. To me, Mike Trout is without a doubt the best current baseball player out there. And I think there's still so much more room for this. Like, everyone's saying, oh, well, Soto is going to catch up to him or someone else is going to catch up to him. But the reality is, let's look at what he's already accomplished. He's already got 3 MVPs. He's already got multiple batting titles, right? He's done so much in his career already, and it's basically at the halfway mark, right? He might not catch up to the home runs. He might not catch up in whatever. And his career very well might, steady and then eventually kind of decline a little bit. But at the end of the day, he's already accomplished so much for me that I still think he's undervalued.
Yeah, I just know that his prices are really high.
They are high.
I would say he's a guy that it's like, everybody knows he could be a legend, but it's still kind of early to say because so much can happen. Again, like you said, in my eyes, if he never wins, I don't think that's the end of the world. I just think it's really about kind of the stats and the fan base that you bring. Like Babe Ruth wasn't just the stats guy for baseball. Mm-hmm. He was more than that. He's the reason they built the old Yankee Stadium,
Yeah.
He's like the face of baseball. So that's what you got for Trout. I don't know. I think he's properly rated and underrated if he continues to play well. He's definitely, I wouldn't say he's like just 100% overrated because he's got a long ways to go. If he gets hurt, if he gets hurt for a year or two, and then if he doesn't start performing well, dude, you could lose a lot of money. But do I think that's going to happen? No. I know the guy's a stud. I've seen him play. His poise and confidence, prudence is at a different level. I think he's properly rated over the long term, potentially underrated. So
fair enough. All right, who do you got next?
Okay, another guy, you definitely know more about him than me. I swear to God, I found this card under my bed this morning. I was cleaning my room. I had Artemi Panarin, True 9.5 under the bed. Is a PSA 10 Artemi Panarin. Overrated, underrated. Bird, let's go.
I actually have my PSA 9 for sale right now on eBay.
Bird selling cards right now.
I have my PSA 9 on sale on eBay. But I'm looking at these prices, and I think it's overvalued in the sense that I know what his prices are going for, but until hockey, I'll say this: in the short term, it is overvalued in the short term. In the long term, depending on how he does, I do think it's undervalued. Now just hear me out here. This is a guy who finished top 3 in MVP racing. He's playing in a large market now. I just see like the PSA 10s, they're currently going for around 300, which is great. But it's like there are some younger players such as Sveshnikov and players who, arguably speaking, can do what Panarin's done. Now, mind you, Panarin's more than a point per game player, which shocks a lot of people. I just think what hurts him in terms of a collecting value is he played in the KHL for 7 years. That really hurt him coming into it. So he's already at that 28, 29 years of age, which again, like that's Mike Trout age. It's high. Like it is high. And even after his 95-point season, his card prices didn't go up by much. So that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, okay, well, what's it going to take for Panarin's card prices to really go up by a lot? Now, obviously, the Wayne Gretzky boom did help him, but I just think like, okay, he's gonna have to win an MVP. You know, his chance to win the MVP was last season, and he didn't win it. He lost it. He lost out to Leon Draisaitl. Okay, so he might not do that. Will he win a cup with the Rangers? Being a Rangers fan, I certainly hope so. But I don't know. Without rambling on too much, I think it's slightly overvalued right now, based on his age. I think his market's great. I don't know. I mean, if Mike DiStefano is watching this, I'm sure he might have a different opinion. But I'm shocked I'm saying this, but I think it's currently overvalued just by a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the prices. I assume he's at least $300 for a PSA 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think he's properly rated at the moment. But if he continues on the exact same trajectory, like you said, if he doesn't win championships, if he doesn't hoist the cup, if he doesn't win an MVP, he will go from properly rated to underrated, or properly rated to overrated, in my opinion. And then if he steps it up, like, he's a guy where it's like he can do whatever he wants from where he's at right now. But at this point in time, he's either properly rated but heading towards overrated, in my opinion. Which is, I don't know, I'm trying to finesse it as much as I can, but that's really how I feel.
Yeah, certainly, man. You know, Artemi Panarin, you know, I got another raw ungraded card here too of Panarin. I don't know. I like the bread man. I'm a fan of him, but I'd be selling now, to be honest. Okay, moving on.
The bread man. That's funny.
Yeah, moving on. I was shocked to find out this pop report. Completely shocked, man. Because when we speak about baseball, and when we speak about, arguably speaking, the top three guys underneath 25, you got Soto, you got Acuna, and then you got our man Tatis. And I'm sure that within this episode, we will eventually get to all three. But this one shocked me. The US 250 Ronald Acuna tops PSA 10, which probably is the card for Acuna. The pop report on this, 17,122.
That's a lot.
That is more than Luka. That is more than Zion. That's a lot of cards, and it's not the Chrome. So I don't know, underrated, overrated. You know, this is a guy who was darn near close to a 40-40 season, but dude, there's a lot of those cards floating around in pristine, basically perfect condition.
Yeah. So we're talking about Acuna, right?
That's for Acuna.
Yeah, Ronald Acuna. Well, there's a reason I moved a couple last year, because I got some profits, and to be honest, for me, it was, you know, who do I believe in the most? And the most underrated guy that I was kind of looking at the time was Tatis, and I'm like, I'd rather hold some Tatis, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, later. For Acuna, the US 250 card, I think he's kind of gone back down a little bit.
Yeah, last year didn't really help him.
I would say he's underrated right now, but there's a lot of them. So in the meantime, I'd actually say he's underrated if he has a good year. So it depends on what he's going to do. He's one of those guys where he was doing good, then he's been screwed with COVID.
2020, yeah, it didn't help him. Yeah,
it's hard to say.
This is a guy who was, I can't remember if it was the home runs. I'm pretty sure he hit more than 40 bombs, but he was only a few stolen bases away from a 40-40 season, meaning 40 home runs and 40 stolen bases in the same season. Okay. And then COVID happened and everyone's like, oh, you know, Acuna's not who he is, whatever. You got to remember, within the COVID season, they played 60 games, meaning he would have had 102 more games to play in a regular season.
They always
right. So and if you know baseball, there's hot streaks, there's slumps, there's, you know, maybe, and I mean the greats like Mike Trout kind of just remain hot the entire season. But at the end of the day, I'm still a firm believer in Ronald Acuna, and that is a very high pop report. I'm going to say underrated, but with a slight twist on it, I would actually say, just because the pricing is drastically different from a PSA 9 to a PSA 10, go and pick yourself up if you want to invest in Acuna, I would say go pick up 2 PSA 9s and then keep the change that you would have spent for a PSA 10. That's me personally.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's kind of how I feel. I feel like he's underrated because you got to put in the price with the pop report.
That's high.
I'd say he's underrated because when baseball comes around, I think you can make a good profit between that time too. That's what I'm doing. I'm holding him till baseball starts. And hey, if he hits 50 bombs, now I've got myself a legend. So
yeah, and I'm just surprised that we both agree that for a pop report so high, that we still agree that it is undervalued. Because I do, at the end of the day, I do like to speak about pop reports, but sometimes I feel like some people they get so lost into the pop report numbers, and they don't see value for, what it is. And at the end of the day, like it, what we probably should focus on more is what is it currently priced at? And
yes,
a PSA 10, right? That's what I'm saying. So like a PSA 10 of Ronald Acuna, the pricing wise, there are some that you can purchase for around 250 to 300. That to me, at that price, regardless of 17,000, I still believe that all 17,000 will eventually go up in price.
Yeah, because for me personally, I like to get the true rookie of the player, and I look at the price. Typically, I don't even look at the pop report because it doesn't matter if there's the attention there and if people want to get it. It's not that it doesn't matter. It's that, I mean, if there aren't that many at all, then that's where it's like it really matters. But yeah, for the most part, there's thousands of them anyways for the most part. However, if it's a player where there's only 40 or 50 or under 200 of them, then you know that the price is going to be very expensive anyways. So anyways, I'm going to go with the new one. And we're going to go a bit of a Pokemon route. Charizard, we're going to imagine that this is a English Charizard PSA 10. And if you don't know, an English Charizard PSA 10, you're talking, I believe, at least $20,000. This is shadow. It's a lot of money, maybe even more. Probably $20,000 to $30,000. That's the card in Pokemon. Is Charizard underrated, overrated? Let's hear it.
I would say he's criminally undervalued. We're seeing the Pauls opening up these things. Dude, it seems like every single day there's a new video. I just spent $2 million on Pokemon cards, and the community's just going nuts. I know. I think it's Logan Paul, not Jake Paul, but I know that he's doing a 25th anniversary for Pokemon. Breaking all these first edition boxes or what have you. And at the end of the day, Charizard can't get injured. Charizard's career, so to speak, is still going on, and he's still the GOAT. Like, Charizard is the GOAT, unless you're one of those crazy people who, when you grew up playing Pokemon and you decided to go for Bulbasaur and then eventually work your way up to Venusaur. By the way, still probably undervalued there, but it's crazy. Like $20,000. I look at this and some of these cards are more rare than these sports cards. Yeah. And it's like, that's what I think is going to happen. I think you're going to see people just go into it for the money. And then maybe you're going to see people who love sports go into Pokemon as well. So I would say criminally undervalued. When you said it was just around 20K, honestly, I thought that was pretty low, considering that people are spending $2 million on like 4 boxes of Pokemon.
But in there's Charizards, right? Like, that's why.
But again, that's who they're hunting for, right?
Oh, for sure.
So that's who they're hunting for. Eventually, someone's going to buy all those boxes. So then how else are you going to want to get the Charizard? You're just going to go out and buy the Charizard. So I feel like it's extremely undervalued.
You have to. So it looks like, yeah, I mean, you're talking non-shadowless too. There's one for $30,000 Canadian, $35,000.
Yeah,
you can get them now. I know. I mean, that's a lot of money. Like, that's a lot of money because this is a unlimited. So if you don't know, base unlimited, that means that it's a non-shadowless. Compared to this card, this is a shadowless card. So if you look at the side here, there's no shadow. It's that simple. Whereas on this card, there is a shadow. And that's basically first edition shadowless is going to be the very first printing. Shadowless is the next. And then base set unlimited is what we used to have in grade school, where kids would rip packs and
Rip people off.
Kurt, I don't think people understand. Okay, cell phones are a big craze in schools when they first came out.
Yep.
Literally, you would be in your hallway when I went to grade school in the 90s, in early 2000s. Kids all played Pokemon. Everybody had a Pokemon.
We got Pokemon.
We got
Pokemon banned.
Pokemon was banned from school because it was that much of a problem. And now that you look back on it, man, Charizard was we could have bought Charizards for $50.
Oh my goodness.
I
don't know. It's so undervalued, and it's like
underrated.
I don't see why it eventually can't surpass Michael Jordan. And that's going to piss off so many listeners, but I don't see why it can't.
I think it is already there. If not, it's probably already there for the first edition Shadowless, like the Charizard cards.
Right.
I mean, Logan Paul, I believe, even bought one for near $1 million. So,
wow.
At least a couple 100,000. So,
right.
Close.
But that's what I'm saying. Eventually, that card is going to get. It's the same thing as the prisms, where people start going into select and going into hoops, and I don't know, man. That's a pretty dang good card to have.
You're talking about arguably the card. Of the entire spectrum. So if sports had a card, so it wouldn't be like an NBA card or a baseball card. If sports in general had a card, it would be a Charizard. So that's the way you should be looking at Charizard, right? It's not that it's Michael Jordan, it's that it's the god of Michael Jordan in a way. So Charizard criminally undervalued still. I know he's expensive. And that's why I was buying them last year. So
all right. So there's a GOAT. Let's speak of another person who people like to call the GOAT. And whether that happens, obviously, there's forever going to be debate. But LeBron James, you said earlier on in an episode that we did a few months back now. In that episode, we were talking about do not sell these sports cards. And you said within that, LeBron James. But today, I want to talk about LeBron James, the 2003 Topps PSA 10. Not the Chrome, the Topps. The pop report on this, Mitch, is only 1,860. So 1,860 of these. Man, I look at this and I go, LeBron is so much more than a basketball player. He really is. I can't help but to say that's undervalued. I feel like there's Kobe cards are going up, LeBron cards are going up, Jordan cards are going up. And I mean, LeBron is incredible. You don't even have to like him as a player. You don't have to like him as a person. You can be like that little blonde Karen, calling him out on the court. Enter clip.
Poor Karen. If you're named Karen, we're sorry. It's too funny.
But I mean, at the end of the day, LeBron is so good, and he's 36 years old, and he's still basically averaging a triple double. His status is arguably speaking already top 3 all time, maybe top 2, because people are always debating who's the GOAT.
And Zion has a better field goal percentage than LeBron.
Yes, he does.
It's kind of cool to say. And only 1.2 points away.
I'm pretty sure Shaq has a better free throw percentage than Zion.
Yeah, Zion hasn't been shooting. Let's not talk about that.
So regardless, what do you think? Underrated, overrated, properly rated? I just can't help but to think that's underrated, and I think it's going to continue to climb.
The price is so high, even for LeBron. However, he's the modern Jordan, 100%. You can't even debate that. If anything, he has a chance of becoming the greatest basketball player of all time on and off the court. And I know, Jordan fans won't like it, whatever. I think Jordan personally, in his own regard, is the best, even points per game wise. But you got to think about it, man. Like LeBron James, he has the potential to win 3 or 4 more championships. I believe that even today. If he does that, that would be insane. And he would probably solidify himself if he could win 3 or 4 more championships. and that's a lot to do, very hard to do. But I would say he's properly rated because he's so expensive. Again, price plays a role into this.
Oh, for sure.
Some of his cards are worth more than Jordan's, his chromes. Like I saw Chrome.
Right, but this isn't necessarily the chromes though.
I know, but that's what I mean. I'm just saying, like, in general, like I'm looking at his tops, and probably because it's like you mean the one with this jersey we're talking about?
The 2003 tops PSA 10.
Where he's holding his jersey though, the draft one, or you're talking about the tops chrome one?
This one should be where he's holding the jersey.
Yeah,
so
that one.
1860, yeah.
Yeah, so for that card, it's looking like it's 10 grand. That's what it's been selling for recently.
And I think that is
good. Okay, for that card, I would say that card's undervalued. The chrome one, I think it's still undervalued, but probably more properly valued because it's so expensive.
The chrome card keeps climbing and climbing and climbing.
That's like his like big time card.
Yeah.
But his tops card probably undervalued even now, and that's crazy because you're talking thousands, man, for a modern guy. So yeah. So the next one we're going to talk about, I have a couple. We're talking about tops 1992, I believe. 92 Shaquille O'Neal. So this PSA 10. This is one of the most trendiest cards right now. I've got a few of them. I got a grade. Is Shaquille O'Neal over or undervalued, Bird?
Dude, I still remember before we basically started Red Cape Sports, me and you were both saying, like, how are shot cards this cheap? And then, eventually, it kind of clicks in, oh, well, that's a Junkbox era card. But Shaquille O'Neal, like, dude, like, basically, if you're watching primetime NBA, you're seeing Shaq. You're seeing him then. Even though he's not playing, Shaq is still very well relevant. God bless his soul, Kobe Bryant passing. Shaq is still somehow linked in that, obviously, the dynamic duo there. And, dude, Shaq off the court was a cop, wanted to eventually be a judge. He was an actor. He was a rapper. What hasn't he done, right? And dude, Shaquille O'Neal is a personality.
I saw him last night on TV. He was selling printers. He's like, yeah, get this print. Like his stories are great, man. He's so big, so marketable. Yep.
Yeah. So with that being said, I got to go with undervalued because there's a lot of people who put Shaq on their Mount Rushmore NBA, on their NBA Mount Rushmore, and honestly, I don't think that's out of this world at all. You can absolutely make a case for that. He's one of the most dominant centers of all time. Shaq is phenomenal. So yeah, absolutely. I gotta go with undervalued. I actually I'm shocked at some of these prices. And yes, they've gone up significantly since we were buying, but I still think
they're selling about 1,900 Canadian for his tops chrome, and this is not the gold one. And if anybody in the comments below, there's a little pink on there, and apparently that's called a pink mountain error. So I'd like to know, maybe I have something good there. But yeah, PSA 10 going for $1,900, $1,500 USD.
Yeah, I still think that's undervalued.
There's also the tops chrome, and then of course other variations. I think this is his go-to card. It's kind of like the Kobe tops card. So I'd put Shaq as undervalued. Who doesn't like Shaq? He's one of those guys where it's like, compared to even like LeBron, people love Shaq off the court. Yep. People know who Shaq is. He's a giant of the dude. He's probably the biggest guy we've ever seen in the NBA. And he's gonna beat him. Crazy. He's one of a lifetime kind of dude. I love Shaq. I'm never gonna sell high graded Shaqs. Never. No reason.
Wow.
I would sell a LeBron before a Shaq. That's how I feel emotionally about it, right?
All right. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, so definitely Shaq is a legend. But his career is done. Now, on the flip side of that, though, someone who we both believe when it's all said and done will be an absolute legend. The man speaks English, and that's what I think is going to separate him apart from the other two guys that we consider the big three for young up-and-coming baseball players. Fernando Tatis Jr. tops PSA 10. So not the Chrome, but this tops PSA 10 is selling for anywhere between $250 $300. Okay. The Pop Report, 913. That's it.
Yeah.
Less than 1,000 of these. And honestly, like, I can't tell people, like, I mean, people are going to think that your love for Zion is the equivalent to, you know, me pumping the Fernando Tatis Jr. market. As of making this video, I sold you my last Tatis. I don't own any. I'm currently in the process saving up. You know, I do eventually want to get a 10 because I think this is extremely undervalued. Yeah. I think Fernando Tatis Jr., when it's all said and done, is going to be a phenomenal player. And like I said, Juan Soto doesn't speak English and Ronald Acuna doesn't speak English. The ability to, you know, have interviews and say likable things is definitely going to drive up his price. So I think for $300, and there's only 913 of them, extremely undervalued.
Yeah, I'm probably more on the Topps Chrome route because that's probably, in my opinion, a very beautiful card too.
For sure.
Dude, I don't know what else you can say about Fernando Tatis Jr. That dude is so marketable, a stud. He hits the bombs, he can run. Dude, people don't understand. I don't think people understand. Unless you play baseball, you don't understand how versatile this dude is.
Yep.
To be able to throw 90 miles an hour, first of all, that is God-given. To be able to hit a ball the way he does against major league pitchers, God-given. This dude is a absolute stud. He is a guy who I am, in terms of baseball, he's my dude that I could flip and make good profit, but I can't sell him because he's Fernando Tatis Jr. He is undervalued. He is legit the best potential guy you can still get. He, in my opinion, is the guy. Fernando Tatis Jr. I love him. I have a hard time thinking about selling him, even though it might be the right thing for a couple cards because I got in at $10 shipped to me. So I have 4 coming back, actually, PSA Chromes, and I'm looking at the prices and I'm like, I don't care how much money I'm making. I believe in him. I believe in Tatis. I have some Raws too. He's one of those guys where even at his price, he is undervalued. Yeah. Get Tatis, baby.
Fair enough. You got another one?
Yeah. So my next one, and this is a little bit different. And I know myself, I assume we're both not as, I guess, educated on this. But what do you think of Marvel cards? And people are starting to talk about it, and it's a little bit out there. My next picks are a little bit out there. Marvel cards. So if you haven't seen, we're going to put up a photo anyways. We're going to talk about a Spider-Man 1992 Marvel card. Do a bit of research. These cards are cheap. I feel like they're going to begin to climb. The way I think about it is, imagine if a sports card was like a comic book was smaller and more compact. You can ship it, show it easier, and the art's beautiful. I think Marvel cards are undervalued, specifically if you can get Spider-Mans and Hulk and get the good versions. For me, I still have to do a lot of research, but I think Marvel cards in general, I feel like there's something there.
That's very interesting. I know Gary Vee said that he purchased a few and that he wanted to purchase more, which probably means that they're undervalued. Personally, I honestly am not nearly familiar enough with it to really say more. All I know is growing up as a kid, liking, and I mean, you know, I was a big superhero fan. That wasn't cool at all. You know, not necessarily getting bullied and thrown into lockers and things like that. Like, you know, people before me, that kind of paved the way for us. But now, like, Marvel's super cool, right? I mean, the movies and everything like that, people love that with the Avengers and whatnot. Mind you, I am Team DC. I am very well Team DC.
It's been cool for a while though, right?
Right, but like it's just growing in popularity. You know, yourself and I, we used to actually, before we ever did Red Cape Sports, we used to have a show called Comic Empire. Please do not YouTube it. It's extremely embarrassing. But anyway, I don't know nearly enough about it, but I would lean towards undervalued. I think all the nerdy nostalgia things are a good investment. I really do. Like, I think it's becoming more culturally acceptable and like more acceptable within society to like all these nerdy things that at one point would have got you shoved into a locker.
Well, dude, like I have people message me probably at least once a week. Somebody who I used to know from high school, they're like, "Bro, I saw that you I heard that you got a Charizard, or like you're into sports cards, dude. I want to do that." And they ask me questions, and it's like they weren't doing that before, especially when we were kids. It was big, and it's come back, but I think it's starting to. Things are solidifying, you know, and especially. You're talking about Charizard. When anybody hears Charizard or Spider-Man, you associate that to something. You think it's Superman, you're like, it's Superman. So those guys aren't going away anytime soon. And if you have a piece of history of that, I think it's valued. So go ahead, Bert, next one.
Cool. Next one, just by default, you know, we've already spoken about two of the three guys. So Juan Soto, the 2018 Topps update, PSA 10. The pop report on this is 857. 857. That's even lower than Fernando Tatis Jr. And at the end of the day, I believe in, you know, I know that there's a ton of investors, a ton of YouTubers who like to mention defense as well. But to me, it's like, I'm not investing in a guy just because he's a great defender. I'm investing in a guy because he hits. And Juan Soto, at the tender age of 22, is probably one of the best hitters in the big leagues right now. Like, better than Trout, better than Mookie, better than Belly. I think Juan Soto is an absolute stud. And I got to go with undervalued. Now, I'm well aware, like, this card is, it's already up there in pricing, but he's 22 years old.
Yeah.
22. He's already got a World Series ring. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he does eventually winning at least a few MVPs. He's incredible. Like, just such a great hitter. And I mean, the thing is, we spoke about the other two being Acuna and Tatis. I think pound for pound hitting wise, Soto's the best. He's probably not the best all around player, right? But I think when you compare their stats line in terms of hitting, when it's all said and done, he's gonna be ahead enough.
Yeah, for me, I'm not as educated. I started looking at him because you were telling me about him too. Based on what I know, what I've seen, I mean, left-handed hitter. He's a left-handed hitter. He's not a switch, right?
He's incredible.
He's really good, man. He's up there. And it's funny because I feel like, you know, you have a guy like Bryce Harper, you know, when they were kind of, you know, when you could visualize them next to each other, it's like, dude, like, he kind of outshines anybody he plays with, you know? So I think Juan Soto, undervalued too. I really do. And I don't have any, so.
No, I don't either. And I mean, full transparency, at the end of the year, you know, hopefully by the time baseball comes around, hopefully I'll own at least one of these three. But if I could own all three, that'd be even better.
Well, I'm sure we could do a deal, get the Tatis going. The next one I want to talk about is going to be Patty Mahomes. And of course, he's playing in the Super Bowl tonight. This is arguably the biggest game of his career. It's going not in terms of importance. He's already like legit, but he is playing Tom Brady, which is unbelievable. Okay, Patrick Mahomes, PSA 10. What card would that be for football? That would be
that's the Prism. You want the Prism.
Prism, right? Yeah. That card's expensive.
Oh my goodness, yep.
But Patty Mahomes, he is one guy out of any sport for a young age that literally is the most dominant, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
I'm going to say overrated. Again, this is 5:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Super Bowl starts in around an hour and a half. We have no idea what's going to happen. It's obviously going. His price is definitely going to go up. Even right now, because it's before the Super Bowl, people are hoping that he does win. Let's say he does win, and it does go up in price. Even if he doesn't, I can make the same argument. But if he does go ahead and win, I think having beaten Tom Brady as well, I think that's a really important part. Because Tom Brady, to me, is the GOAT. And this is coming from the biggest Buckeye fan that there is. I think Tom Brady's an absolute legend. I think he's the GOAT. I don't even want to entertain your ideas that there's a better quarterback. Don't even tell me that he's a system quarterback. Tom Brady, at the age of 43, is playing in the Super Bowl. Okay?
I think
he's great. But Mahomes, it's so high. And like the pop report on those, it's so high. I would rather put my money in basically any other guy that we already spoke about. So for that reason, I got to go overvalued. I have to.
In my opinion, because of the prices, I think, man, it's a shame because he's so expensive. In terms of a talent,
that's a different story.
Dude, I think we're going to, the thing is, you don't know what Brady's going to do. I think this will show, but based on what I've seen, last year I really noticed, I was watching some tapes and I'm like, dude, Patty Mahomes, he legit is that much better than any other quarterback I've ever seen in terms of talent. But it's all going to go down to tonight. I don't watch enough football to really know. I think this game is big in both regards. I think Patty Mahomes, if he has the opportunity to literally show, is he really that much better than the greatest of all time? That's going to be interesting. This is interesting. I think he's properly rated right now. Price-wise, though, I don't know. I that one's tough. I just go properly rated.
Yeah. I mean, properly rated, I mean, you know, if you want to edit it and put the card down for me for properly rated, that'd be fine, too.
Yeah.
Because the talent is there. The pricing is like, and I mean, here's the thing that I fear will happen. With mainly,
I am 2 years ago. I didn't listen.
I told you to buy him when he was $120.
Guys, Bird, I would have bought anything. I just wasn't into cards until like a month later.
Yeah.
I didn't know football, and I missed out on $50,000.
Yeah. But what I will say with specifically Prism in basketball and in football, I think Prism, young players in Prism, you have the Zion effect and it just goes nutty. You have it really doesn't matter. Mahomes was another young one.
I would call it more Luka effect.
Right. And then the Luka effect. And I love Luka, but like some of these prices, Joe Burrow's Prism came out, and it was like ridiculous amounts.
I was the first one to say that. I love Burrow, but Bird, I'm like,
sorry, that was his mosaic. Pardon me. That was his mosaic.
Dude, it wasn't even his Prism. When that came out, I'm like, Bird.
Yeah.
Like, do people realize this is very expensive? You went from, dude, I was getting Zion at $5 as hoops, and then the Prism comes out and they're like $1,000. Like, what's going on?
Right. So all that being said, I think you're kind of going to see it inflated. And what's going to happen, right? Let's take a guy like Jason Tatum, for example. Great ball player. Is he going to finish when it's all said and done in the top 50? Probably no. Right. So what's going to happen is someone's eventually going to be stuck paying $15,000 for a Jason Tatum card, and he's going to be irrelevant. Dude, I remember playing. Paul Pierce used to be like a really, really good player. When I grew up liking basketball, nobody talks about Paul Pierce now. And Paul Pierce, also being a Celtic, was around the same equivalent as Jason Tatum. Paul Pierce might be a Hall of Famer. Actually, pardon me, he is a Hall of Famer. Yeah. But he's a Hall of Famer that nobody cares about. Same thing with like a guy like Chris Mullin. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that Patrick Mahomes is going to get to that. I'm just saying like these dude, it's not sustainable. Like his card prices are just going nuts.
I mean, Patty Mahomes though is a guy who, I mean, dude, he's a guy who's literally, I mean, look at what I mean, people are like, oh, he's overpaid. He's not overpaid. The
No.
guy, there's a reason he's getting paid so much.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, he's in the Super Bowl again. The way he throws, like, dude, he's legit one of those guys who can become a legend at a very early age. He can beat Trout. He can beat Trout in that regard.
For sure. And like football's huge. And like the reality is what if he does go on to win the next 4 Super Bowls? Like, what if he does? What if he's got 4 or 5 Super Bowls? You know, I'm going to sound stupid as hell, but it's really hard to win a Super Bowl. It is.
If he beats Brady and goes on to win more, it's not even. Dude, Mahomes has the opportunity to do things that even Brady's never done. Yeah. So that's why.
But at the end of the day, just for me, you know, to kind of quickly wrap this one up, I'd rather, if I had that money, I'd rather put it into a few other investments. That's all. I wouldn't tie it up into one guy, not him at least.
Okay, we need another pick from you, Bird.
All right, another pick. I'm going on to the ice here. Connor McDavid, aka Connor McJesus. I texted you the other night and I was like, dude, this guy's averaging 2 points per game. So for all the American viewers, I want to put this into perspective. Okay, that's like averaging. I wouldn't necessarily saying that's like averaging, but that's like averaging a home run every game in baseball. Like this is just incredible that we're seeing right now. The pace that Connor McDavid is playing at, he's going to have more than 100 points in 50 games. Like just think about that. That's absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, some people struggle to reach 100 points within the full regular season of 82. Last year, they played, what was it, 72? There's only one guy to hit 100 points, and McDavid might hit that mark within 50 games this season, which is ridiculous. Anyway, his PSA 10 Young Gun, the Pop Report, there's 1,976 of these. He's the best thing since sliced bread, man. He really is. Like, if I'm being honest, I like players. I love Artemi Panarin, and I love Brock Besser, and I love these players that are playing. Nobody makes, like, physically my jaw drops when I watch McDavid skate. Not even when he's scoring, not even when he's setting up a beautiful pass. Dude, he's by far the best player in the NHL right now.
Yeah, and
what do you think?
I'm going for. So I definitely I bought his raw card because I'm like, I want to double my money pretty easily. I bought this dude, Connor McDavid, McJesus, which he deserves.
Yep.
I bought him for $400 or $500 raw. And sold it for $800 in like a month.
Yeah.
Now I'm kicking myself because I'm like, dang, that probably would have got a 9. But again, it's a different game, different approach. McDavid, he's legit. He's undervalued, 100%. I don't care if he is $30,000.
He's undervalued. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Even at that, he's undervalued.
He's undervalued, but still with the risk that he may never win a cup.
Yep.
And to think that somebody like that in today's game is going to be able to beat Gretzky, you're wrong. The era that we're in today, nobody's ever going to catch Gretzky, ever, because unless
not in points, at least.
Not in points, only in goals. And Ovechkin is still going to
do it. He's still going to do it. Yeah.
Dude, Ovechkin is a freak, man. He's a Russian assassin.
Yeah.
So, next on the list, let's go through it. Bird, Connor McDavid, though, overrated, underrated?
Connor McDavid, underrated. Extremely.
Underrated. I agree. I called you one time because he scored a goal once, and I never do that. About the next on the list, I'm just throwing this for a loop. So if you guys don't know, Bird's gonna hate me. I just because I want to keep this kind of interesting.
Is it Lonzo Ball?
No. All
right.
Don't even mention him. He doesn't deserve anything. Pogs, Michael Jordan. We found some Pogs, Michael Jordan, and there's some graded PSA. So I'm just gonna.
You can grade a Pog.
You can grade Pogs, and wow. I saw Pogs, Michael Jordan. You can buy them raw for very cheap, about $10. but you could also get PSA 10 Pogs, and they're about $100 or so.
Wow.
Are Pogs Michael Jordan underrated or overrated?
Dude, I saw someone selling Pogs on like Facebook Marketplace, and they're asking like $500, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then I went down this crazy trip of eBaying what Pogs are going for.
$70 you can get a PSA 10 Jordan.
Now, I imagine on the screen you'll probably show people what a Pog is. It's basically like a little coin, and you flip it. Anyway, it was a fun little game back in the 90s. My condolences to anyone who doesn't know what Pogs are, because it was wonderful. Anyway, those things get pretty dang beaten up, for sure. So to have one in pristine condition like that, I don't know. What's it go for?
$70. Well, I actually had to do research on it because there's so much to it. I just saw an Ovechkin one. If you get in, there's 1995 graded Pogs of Michael Jordan. You can grade them yourselves, but I think you should just buy one. The Pop Report is like 4 or 5 of them too. So
Wow.
little Pop Report, you got a little coin picture of Michael Jordan. Is that undervalued? I think long term, I don't know who's gonna.
It depends how long term though.
You're getting into the point of like, am I gonna collect toothpaste with Michael Jordan and grade it? Right? I don't know.
This is a 1 out of 1 stapler. Like, come on.
Jordan on it. Like, who has that? Right? Like, that's the kind of game we're playing. It's a collectible.
I'm gonna go overvalued. I don't think Pogs has caught on enough. And then like you're gonna need someone with a lot of money who doesn't care about dumping $100 towards a collectible item like that. Because here's the thing, like our Uncle Jonathan, shout out to Uncle Jay, he's got a ton of Transformers memorabilia and all that. And trust me, the Transformers, what do you call it? The community,
yep.
It's large. But like the last that I actually spoke to Uncle Jonathan, and actually shout out to Jeremy Reno, who runs the world's biggest Transformers convention. Really? He was telling me, and actually shout out to him, because he literally like an hour and a half ago, he's the one who dropped off all these sports cards to me. Anyway, what the point I'm getting at, they were saying like there are so many sealed wax and so many toys like Megatrons and all these different Autobots, Transformers, that are just stuck in pristine condition. Nobody wants to move it. So that's what I'm wondering. Like, if you have this in pristine condition, are you one of those people who don't want to sell it? Like, I don't know the Pogs market, man. And for that reason, I gotta say, I'm not spending. Dude, I can buy a Sveshnikov for that price. I can buy, if it goes down, I can buy a Panarin raw. But that's all I'm saying. I'm not investing my money into Pogs, Michael Jordan. Overrated.
That's interesting. I think at the price, I think some of them are just kind of properly rated, potentially underrated long term. If I did more research, I would probably find some that are underrated. But for the most part, I think they're kind of properly rated because they're already like $70. But that's again, like, I don't know how many sales are. I know the Pop Report's low. Long term, I could see them a little underrated. But again, if you're talking Michael Jordan as a collectible, you don't want the Pog. You should get the card. So,
right.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting. Maybe I'm wrong, though. I don't know. Maybe Pogs are going to explode soon. So I don't know.
We'll see. I got one last card. You know, if you guys have enjoyed this, definitely smash the like button and subscribe. Turn on bell notifications. It will help us out. Anyway, Mitch, next up. Do you remember this guy that you spent $20 on? Anyway, Luka Doncic, PSA 10 Prism. Hopefully this is a PSA 10. Who knows? Anyway, they're garnering insane prices. Luka's 22 years old, or not even 22. Luka's 21. But that Prism Pop Report really high, 15,869. Overrated or underrated? Really quick, without getting too deep into it.
He's properly rated. I mean, he's so expensive right now. He's properly rated, still heading towards underrated. And I know there's so many, but legit, dude, he's got more points per game than anybody, and he's still got the assists and rebounds to go with it. Dude, this dude, This dude is legit that good. Properly rated. Over the long term, probably still underrated.
I'm actually going to go underrated. If you kind of look at the chart, his prices, these prices that we are seeing, dropped off from what he was doing in the NBA bubble, and for that reason, I know that his card prices can get there again and continue to go even higher. So for that reason, this is one of those rare occasions where, yeah, there's 15 grand of these, close to 16 grand, but I still think he's underrated.
Yeah. Cool. And then I'm going to go with mine. I actually just picked up a card, and of course, this is a different sport, something we haven't really talked about. If there's one guy in a fighting sport, in my opinion, Khabib Nurmagomedov, I got a Topps Finest card, so it's my only one I've gotten of him. There is a UFC debut card, but they're thousands of dollars, and also the first auto card. But I'm talking about, Khabib Topps Finest 2013 PSA 10. Bird, do you think they're overrated or underrated? Just talk about Khabib in general. Is he overrated or underrated?
At the end of the day, people love Conor McGregor, and Conor McGregor goes up. This is the man who basically put Conor McGregor to sleep, right? Khabib is 30-0
and
29-0,
and Poirier,
right? And Poirier,
mold them,
right? And then Poirier ended up even beating up McGregor. This is a man who's undefeated, man, and I don't think people understand how technically sound and how committed to the game you have to be to do that. Whether he comes out of retirement and enters the cage again, we'll see about that. But as I alluded to earlier on in the show, I think combat sports in any way, shape, or form are extremely undervalued, and Khabib is literally undefeated. There's not been anyone like him, so I got to go with undervalued. And honestly, I think the entire market is undervalued, so that just naturally makes them undervalued.
I think when people look back on the history of UFC, there's nobody like Khabib Nurmagomedov.
He's my hero, man. He made Conor McGregor go to sleep.
He even boxed him straight up after he fought Floyd. Like, Khabib is the most dominant athlete of the sport right now.
Yeah.
Especially if he comes out of retirement. I mean, dude, I'm not even like a big UFC guy, but I've been following UFC for 3 years. And I should have bought Conor McGregor. I don't even want to talk about these cards I missed out on, but I think he's severely undervalued if you can get some of his first cards. So,
all right. I think you're going to have some interesting things to say about it. This is my Alexis Lafreniere Young Gun. And again, this is a COVID card. This is the card that came out before he ever stepped onto NHL ice and played a game. I don't really know what the pop report is just because it didn't come out so long ago. But these cards came out, dude. We were saying, oh, they'll be $100. Oh, they'll be 200. Some of them were selling for $300. And the reality is he's played 10 games and he's mustered up an entire 1 point.
One goal.
He's got, and it was one overtime goal. Overrated, underrated Alexis Lafreniere. What do you think?
Well, there's a reason. He's definitely. It's such a complicated thing because he's literally only played like 10 games. He's very young. What he's trying to do is crazy. I mean, you have to go with these overrated with the price. It's not even close. With what he's doing in the NHL, he should be $40-$50. And I hate to say that. If I told people if he was $50 or less, I would buy tons.
I'm still waiting for it to drop.
I still believe he's a good talent. I think he hasn't done it yet. He's young. He has the potential. But he's not doing what he should be doing at all. And he's 100%. He's the most overrated guy we've talked about right now. Sorry.
Dude, honestly, I'll come out and say it. I think what's going to help the card price long term is it's a COVID card. It's a COVID card, which, as I'll put it up here.
That's the only good thing about that.
But you're right. That's basically the only good thing that happened. I wouldn't be spending more than $50 on this card right now. I would probably reach at $100 because I think it's important for people to remember.
I wouldn't. I don't think he's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna be what
at 100. I would. I would at 100 because
No, he's not going to have a good
Go
year.
ahead, though.
Not going to have a good year. I don't think he's going to.
I'm not playing this short term personally. I look at this guy. He's 19 years of age. He hasn't played pro hockey. I mean, like, the pandemic really hurt him. This is his first. This is his 10th game within 10 months. You know, Coach Quinn speaks very highly of him. He thinks he's going to be, you know, a top liner, and he has played on the top line. But you're absolutely right. For his card prices, I saw them the other day. They were $200+. $200+. This is a guy who's averaging 5 points. Like, he's on pace for 5 points in the entire season. So unless if he picks it up, you know, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't buy his card for more than 100. At 100, I'm still buying though. I got to be completely honest.
Yeah, in the market of today, maybe $100 if you're a fan.
Right.
But I would not advise anybody to pay $100 on this guy.
Because
I wouldn't tell anybody to pay more than $40-$50. That's how I feel. I think
we'll see.
I think he's dude, like, I mean, I know you're a Rangers fan, and I kind of, you know, I'm
trying to look at this optimistically, not even optimistically, but like devil's advocate.
Even with the devil's advocate, I'm looking at him from every angle, but like, he's there's a lot of really good players, and I think that's very apparent. Just because you're first overall pick doesn't mean you're going to be a McDavid.
Absolutely,
it just shows you how good that guy is, and this guy is not a McDavid right now. He needs to make big changes, and it's not even about the opportunities. It's just, dude, there's a lot of talent, and it just goes to show how good Luka is, how good Zion is. People say Zion's a bust. Sorry, Lafreniere's a bust.
Hey, I wouldn't go as far as calling him a bust after 10 games.
He is 100%.
There's no chance.
He is 100% at this point a bust and on the verge of a bust this year. I'm sorry, man. I don't see him getting 5 goals this year.
Dude, I don't think you can make that case. He'll have more than 5 goals.
Dude, I don't think he's going to get – dude, I don't think
more than 5.
5 goals. If he doesn't get 5 goals, can we say he's a bust?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If he doesn't get 5 goals, he busted at number 1 overall with all this. I'm just personally, after 10 games, I think after 40 games, you can really tell where he's going to be at. And I mean, he's still 30 games away from there. But again, I just wanted to mention that. I thought it was really interesting because there was so much hype around him, and he hasn't performed yet. So honestly, I think that's probably the most debatable card that we've had so far. And again,
it is.
I think this is extremely, I'm putting this in the overvalued section of this.
I mean,
right now,
I call Zion, like, Zion as a player is not overvalued in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think he's still undervalued in that regard. But for prices, if Zion's overvalued, then this guy is like.
That's all I'm saying though. Like, for me, I believe in him enough that if it does eventually fall to 100, I'll be buying. And then when he does turn it on, because again, remember a guy like Nathan McKinnon.
Bird, I honestly hate Bird. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I would rather buy a decent Lonzo Ball card now than Lafreniere.
No, you don't even mean that.
I swear to God.
You need a Snickers bar.
Zion Lonzo hit 4 threes in a row, and I'm like, dude, he's performing better than Lafreniere.
You need a Snickers. You're not acting like yourself. Because go do yourself a favor and look up Nathan McKinnon's stats. His first 2-3 years, he struggled. He definitely struggled. Yeah, it's very hard to find great rookies who perform extremely well out of the gate. But you're right. 1 point through 10 games, it's just not acceptable. No matter how
he can only, let's hope, get better from here. I'm just saying that his talent isn't like, for me, I know I love Zion, whatever, but Zion's talent showed that he can do above average things, which he's doing.
We'll see.
Lafreniere, I haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen him do why like,
I agree.
At this point, like, there's no way this guy's a first overall pick. Like,
I mean,
sorry.
And it certainly doesn't help when you compare him to, like a guy like Kirill Kaprizov, who was also drafted, Tim Stützle.
Stützle is a guy where I'm like, wow, I understand the talent. Lafreniere, I just haven't seen it yet. I hope he figures it out.
I hope we see it too.
Yeah, because there's different levels, right? And this is what the NHL is showing. Just because you're good doesn't mean you're great. Just because you're great doesn't mean you're a legend. Just because you're a legend doesn't mean you're going to be like the GOAT. So, yeah, that's just how it
Listen,
goes.
there's bust in sports. And all I'm saying is I hope Alexi is in it. But anyway,
I like him.
That's all the picks I have. So unless you have any more.
No, none. That's it.
All right, guys, that's it. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, if you've made it this far to the video, definitely please go ahead and smash that like button. It really does help us out. Probably the #1 way to help contribute to, making of these videos. And with that being said, definitely also smash the subscribe button and turn on bell notifications. Anytime that we upload a video, you guys will be the first to be notified. So with all that being said, take care.
Also, don't forget, put down in the comments below which players you want us to do an over and underrated